Hi, welcome back to Guessagaingaming, and today I just wanted to make a very short video about something I notice come up quite often in things I see online, which is graphics in video games, next-gen graphics as they're often called now. So first off, just so you know, we're in London, in Watch Dogs Legion. We're somewhere just off South London, near the London Eye, and it's night time. It's 3:13 a.m. But that's not relevant to the video. I'm just like to give you a tour of London as I do these things. So, okay, graphics in video games. It's something that's come a long way over the last 10 years, very, very fast. If you think back to games that we thought were amazing quality in 2010, now they'd be very dated. Even games from 5-6 years ago might look very dated, and that's ones that were very current and very modern graphics, very the most high-tech graphics you could get at the time. And we'd look at them now and think, well, they're not quite as good, and these much better. But and I grant you that these games where the graphics are just poor, that's a different thing. We're not talking about games that release with very poor graphics. That's a whole different thing. But one of the things I noticed is a game that came out recently called Hellblade 2. These games like Forspoken, which is a well-known game for different reasons. But lots of these games boast very, very fancy graphics. And lots of these games, and I've just mentioned a couple, are not necessarily noted for other things, as in content, as in the story, as in the voice acting, as in many other parts. And I just thought, well, yeah, okay, that's a little thing I'd like to mention. Not a big thing, just a little thing. But here we are in Watch Dogs Legion, and I always use this as a comparison because I think this is apart from the fact it's my favourite game, I think it's a very good game as a kind of good block of starting. So what I mean by that is it's a good game, the graphics are good. I'm not saying it's the top graphics game ever. The voice acting is good. I'm not saying it's the top voice acting game ever. I'm not going into why I think Watch Dogs Legion is good. But this is a fair game. You look at this and you wouldn't have any problem with how the character models look. I think the character models in this game are fantastic actually. You can see the rubbish on the floor there, it looks fine. You can see the wall, that looks fine. You can see the gate, it's fine. You can see all the bits and pieces of London. We'll just have a little walk around. It all looks good. The traffic cone on the ground, the water on the ground looks fine. And I'm not saying by any stretch that everything about this game is great. It's not. Obviously, it's a game from a couple of years ago now, so even if it was, it would have been updated by better graphics. But the point I'm making is this is a good standard game for graphics. At the time it is, and even now, it still holds up really well. There's plenty of games I've seen and played that are more recent that haven't got the same graphic quality as this, especially with the characters. So, especially with all the characters, even the NPCs. But that's the whole thing about Watch Dogs Legion, which is a separate story. And then I thought, well, why is it that we're so obsessed, or some people are so obsessed, and video game companies seem very obsessed, often with graphics? Because we've as video gamers, we've grown up, lots of us, and even if you hadn't been playing a few years, we've grown up with graphics that were far less good. I mean, you think back to even before that, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, before these, the graphics were not that great, but we still enjoyed the games. So why is it that graphics have become this really big thing? Like I said, I grant you that a game with bad graphics isn't good, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about getting cutting-edge graphics against often having a good story, or a long story, or good content, or good fighting mechanics, good gameplay, good voice acting, etc., etc., etc. And why is that more important? And is it more important? Because if you could play a game of a good quality, which is, like I said, Watch Dogs Legion, forget whether you like Watch Dogs Legion, the game, a game of a good quality, voice acting is fine, the graphics are fine, why would you want to play a game with super high fidelity new gen graphics if the content is rubbish? And wouldn't we rather play a game that's got fantastic content and fantastic gameplay? They've really thought about all the immersiveness, they've really thought about the controls. If it's a game with lots of fighting, they've thought about how that works, etc. Rather than a game that's just got fantastic graphics but the rest of it isn't all that good. And I can't think of a reason. It's a bit like everything now, high-tech televisions, and they get 4K, 4HD, everything, same with phones. But you get to a point where it can't get that much better. A brand new phone with an amazing screen of pixels isn't going to do much more than the last one you had. An amazing television with the brand new Pixel XXX something isn't going to do much more than the last TV you had, as long as it was a relatively new television, and so on. So it gets to the point where it's like, well, how much do we want to sacrifice the enjoyment of games just for the quality of the graphics? And I don't see any real reason. I mean, yes, it'd be fantastic to have a game that's got next-gen graphics, the best graphics possibly available to mankind or humankind, but it's also got the best gameplay. But that doesn't seem to ever happen. It always seems to be a trade-off between good gameplay and good graphics. And like I said, if it was me, I would much prefer to have a game with good graphics, maybe not the top next-gen ones, but good gameplay, good characters, good voice acting, good mechanics, everything else. So it's just a thought I had, and I just wonder why so many game companies seem to think that's important, developers, and number two, why it obviously is to some people, because I've seen comments where people they love the graphics. It's so important that the graphics are great, and they complain if the graphics aren't next gen, and they want ray tracing and everything, and if it's not like that, they're not happy. And I think, well, why? A few years ago those things weren't options, and we were happy playing games with good graphics. And the point of a game is it's a game. It doesn't need to be 100% lifelike, and sometimes maybe it's better if they're not. But anyway, that was my thought. Like I said, I wasn't going to make a long video about it. It's not something I wanted to say more than this is something I've observed, and these are my thoughts. So, like I said, for me, good graphics, yes, definitely, but good graphics coupled with good gameplay, coupled with good voice acting, coupled with good stories, good characters, everything else. And there's no way I'd ever want a game with fantastic graphics if any one of those things is a trade-off. Anyway, thanks for watching Guessagaingaming, and take care for now.